So when we think about the Christ and who he is and that spirit, how we share that dynamic with others, we really have to go back to what he said was the greatest commandments. One, to love God. Two, love your neighbor as yourself. And when we think about loving something as ourself, really as humans, we often are very egocentric. When we look at our relationship with Christ, what stands in the way of building that is often what we would view as our failures or our different views of what people may say about him, or what he may have been responsible for, and how can he be a good God. And so we put boundaries, we put borders between us and him. Why? Because ultimately we love ourselves more. When I can protect myself from being totally exposed, then I can protect myself from being hurt. And we've been taught that by our interaction with people. But the issue is that the interaction with God is not a God of anger and pain. It's a God of joy and love. If we go back to the story of Adam and Eve, whether you believe it's a real story or an allegory, when they sinned, they hid. He still came in the garden to talk with them, to have a relationship. It was they who decided to separate themselves by hiding, to try to cover themselves. It is always us that ultimately is afraid of true love, afraid of unconditional love. We can look at that with our relationships with others. We're often with our spouse, with our significant, with those around us, most protective because we know if we ultimately give it all in love, that we can hurt. But with God, he shatters that. He changes that. He turns it upside down because there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you have done. There's nothing you will do that can separate you from that love. And once we understand that and interact that, we can start sharing that with our neighbors. The next time I want to talk about who is our neighbor. Until then, have a good week.